Okay, so we're going to talk about subtraction of whole numbers today. And so when we talk about subtraction, we called that an inverse operation. Okay, so it's another operation that we deal with numbers, just like addition. But it's an inverse operation of addition, which means it undoes addition. So it undoes the effects of addition. Okay, so that's why we call it an inverse operation. So addition and subtraction are inverse operations, so we can show this in a certain way as well. Okay, but before we get into an example, let's talk about terminology. Again, this is going to be important, but again, I'm not going to be testing you guys on this, but it's good to know the terminology. Okay. So here's a definition of sorts. So we have these two numbers. So again, let's A and B and C be whole numbers. Okay. So A minus B, or subtracting B from A, equals C. And again, for right now, we're going to assume that A is bigger than B. So we're always subtracting the smaller number from the larger number. And so what do we call A? That the initial amount that we're starting with is the minuend. Okay. The part that we are subtracting is called the subtrahend, and then of course the amount that we end up with after we do the operation is called the difference or the remainder. Okay, and so this is the definition of what we mean. This is what we mean by when we subtract two numbers, or the operation of subtraction. Okay, so let's do an example. Oh, no, before we do that, let me say a couple other things. Okay, so one of the things that we do when we have an operation like subtraction, if there are parentheses, we always do what's in the parentheses first. But if there are no parentheses, if there's no groupings like that, then we always subtract left to right. Okay, so as we read a book across the page from left to right, that's how we are to subtract. So if you're subtracting more than two numbers, then you're going to subtract left to right if there's no parentheses. If there are parentheses, obviously we do what's in parentheses first, going by order of operations. Okay, so let's see here. Okay, so let's do an example. And let's say we have this. And so again, because we're subtracting more than two numbers, we're going to go left to right. Okay, so we're going to first start with these two. So we're going to subtract 3 from 8. So if we do that, that's going to give us 5. And then we're going to subtract the 1, which gives us 4. And so the answer is 4. Okay? Notice that if we do the groupings, okay, and this is just for example, if we have parentheses, then we do these two in here first, and we get 8 minus 2, which equals 6. So we don't get the same answer. So the parentheses are going to make a difference, and the order in which you subtract is going to be important. Okay? So that brings up another point that I want to make. The operation of subtraction is not commutative, and it's not associative. So the associative property and the commutative property does not work with whole numbers. Okay, and just as an example, if we look at the commutative property, and we say 8 minus 3, and we compare it to 3 minus 8, Well, 8 minus 3 is 5, but 3 minus 8 is negative 5. And those are not the same. And so this symbol is not equals, or not equals. So an equal sign with a slash through it is the symbol for not equals. Okay, you may or may not have seen that before. But obviously we don't, negative 5 and 5 are not the same, so it's not commutative. And as we just saw, parentheses, where your parentheses are, matters as well. Now let's do this. As we saw before, those are not the same. Why? Because here we get what? We get 4. Over here we get 6. Oops. And 4 is obviously not equal to 6. So it's not associative and it's not commutative. Okay? So that's it. So again, next time we'll continue on and we'll talk about the steps of subtracting numbers based on whole numbers. So other than that, have a great day and I'll see you next time.